ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ। ਅਕਾਲ ਚੈਨਲ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਅਸੀਂ तमाम ਸਾਡੇ ਦਰਸ਼ਕਾਂ ਤੱਕ ਜੋ ਯੂਕੇ ਦੇ ਮੌਜੂਦਾ ਹਾਲਾਤਾਂ ਦੀ ਸਿਚੁਏਸ਼ਨ ਨੂੰ ਜ਼ਾਹਿਰ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂ। ਤਸਵੀਰਾਂ ਵੀ ਕੁਝ ਸਾਂਝੀਆਂ ਕੀਤੀਆਂ ਨੇ। ਅਸੀਂ ਜਾਣਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਇਸ ਨਾਲੋਂ ਵੱਧ ਤਸਵੀਰਾਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸੋਸ਼ਲ ਮੀਡੀਆ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਵੇਖੀਆਂ ਜ਼ਰੂਰ ਹੋਣਗੀਆਂ, लेकिन जब असी गल करते हैं तमाम चीज़ां रेसिज्म के नाम से फैलाइया जा रही ने, गल कही जा रही है माइनॉरिटीज़ नूं किते ना किते खतरा है, या गल कही जा रही है कि रिफ्यूजीज़ नूं लैके कई तरीके दीयां दुचितियां ने सोशल मीडिया के उत्ते इन्हां तमाम चीज़ों का भरमार लगा होया है। तद जरूरी हो जाता है असी उन्हां दे नाल गलबात करिए जो इत्थों दे जंपल ने, जो इत्थों दे कह लीए ग्राउंड्स के नाल जुड़े ने, रूट्स के नाल जुड़े ने, तो पहली दूसरी जनरेशन नहीं तीसरी जनरेशन की असी इत्थे गल कर रहे हाँ। तमाम इन्हां हालातां बाबत असी निरंतर गलबात करते रहांगे, लेकिन समझना बेहद जरूरी है कि छोटी छोटी चीज़ां किन्ना क वड्डा रोल अदा कर दिंदियां ने इन्हां तमाम हिंसक घटनावां दे पिछे। साडे नाल इस वेले जुड़े हुए ने डॉक्टर शानी ढांडा होना जी, उनका स्वागत करते हैं जी। वाहिगुरू जी का खालसा वाहिगुरू जी की फतेह। शानी, जिस तरीके दे नाल असी देखिया यूके दे विच ये जो तमाम घटनावां होईयां ने, सोशल मीडिया ने एक इहो जिहा रोल अदा किया है जो असी कह लीए अज तो 10 साल पहला या 5 साल पहला कुछ अजिहा हुंदा सी ना, तद नहीं हुंदा सी। सोशल मीडिया का रोल इन्ना क खतरनाक भी हो सकता है किसी ने नहीं सी सोचा। वट इज़ योर टेक ऑन दिस?
I think social media has played a really integral part of people organising these protests from the far right side, but then it's also helped to warn others not to go to certain areas as well, for example. So social media has a good role and a bad role to play in this. But what it does mean though is that intelligence forces like the police, like detectives and counter-terrorism forces can access this social media and they can use it as intelligence. And I believe already over 600 arrests have already been made of people who have been causing violence, inciting hate online. So I think social media has both good and bad aspects, like it does for anything.
ਤੇ ਇਹਨਾਂ तमाम ਘਟਨਾਵਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਅਸੀਂ ਜੋ तमाम ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਵੇਖਦੇ ਆਏ ਹਾਂ, आम लोगों तक रूमर्स भी काफ़ी ज़्यादा पहुँचे ने। हर एक व्यक्ति की ये जिम्मेवारी होंदी है, जेकर कोई अजिहा मैसेज आया है जिहदे विच तमाम चीज़ां लिखियां हुई ने कि अटैक होएगा, ये तरीक दस्सी जाती है, थां दसिया जाता है, तो असी उस मैसेज नूं फॉरवर्ड ना करिए, बकायदा पुलिस नूं इन्फॉर्म करिए। तो यही एक कह लीए सिटीजन की सब तो पहला जिम्मेवारी होंदी है, रादर दैन उस मैसेज नूं फॉरवर्ड करना। ये भी एक अवेयरनेस के तौर के उत्ते जरूर चीज़ां सामने आनियां चाहिदियां ने।
Yeah, we have to check the source of the information, and on WhatsApp it's very easy to forward messages. We all receive so many messages that have been forwarded hundreds and thousands, even millions of times. It's really important to try and check the source of a message, because we don't want to contribute to forwarding misinformation. That's really dangerous. So it's important to check the source, but also if we do know where these far right violent people are going to come to our towns, we also need to be made aware of that as well. I think it comes back to my earlier point. It has both good and bad perspectives.
Definitely. If we talk about yourself or someone like you who bought in UK, and you see some protest like this, the protest which was started from one town changes into violence into another, and then converting into riots in all of the states, cities of the country. How do you see, or how does it affect on you or someone like a kid who is of 5 or 10?
I think it's scary for everybody, whichever side of the fence you are on. But as Sikhs, we are mistaken for people who are Muslim. We are mistaken for people who are Pakistani. So whether or not we like it, we will get mistaken. We will get caught up in this. And that goes for anybody with black or brown skin, as we have seen. These thugs aren't stopping people and saying, oh, what religion are you? Were you born in this country or did you move here? They don't care. They're just looking for anyone who they can attack, whether you've got brown skin, black skin, whether you are Muslim or not. And I think that's why it's really important that we support one another, we support each other's communities, because I believe every religion is rooted in humanity. There isn't any religion in the world, I believe, that teaches any of us to hate each other. At the end of the day, there's so much more that connects us than divides us. And it's in times like this where we're reminded of that. So I think
ਜੀ
it's important that we aren't made to feel afraid in our own home and in our own country. Like, I'm British, but I'm very embarrassed to be British right now, and for lots of different reasons. And it's very hard to feel safe when you go out. And I'm also a disabled person as well, so I feel like there's an extra layer of vulnerability. But we shouldn't be made to feel this way. But if we stick together as a community and we support other communities, I think that's the best step forward.
uh, the, the protest which is going outside, or the riots those are going outside, ਅਸੀਂ ਮਿਸਟੇਕਨ ਆਈਡੈਂਟੀਟੀ ਦੀ ਇੱਥੇ ਗੱਲ ਜ਼ਰੂਰ ਕਰ ਪਾਉਂਦੇ ਹਾਂ, ਲੇਕਿਨ ਉਹ ਮਿਸਟੇਕਨ ਆਈਡੈਂਟੀਟੀ ਨਾ ਸਿਰਫ ਸਾਡੇ ਇੰਡੀਵਿਜੂਅਲ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਹੈ, ਬਲਕਿ ਜਦ ਅਸੀਂ ਗੁਰੂ ਘਰ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਉੱਥੇ ਵੀ ਇਹ तमाम ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਵਾਪਰ ਸਕਦੀਆਂ ਨੇ। ਅੱਜ ਜੇਕਰ ਮਸਜਿਦਾਂ ਦੇ ਬਾਹਰ ਮੁਸਲਮਾਨ ਭਾਈਚਾਰੇ ਨੂੰ ਖੜਾ ਹੋਣਾ ਪੈ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੈ, ਤੇ ਆਉਣ ਵਾਲੇ ਦਿਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਇਹ ਦਿਨ ਦੂਰ ਨਹੀਂ ਰਹਿਣਗੇ ਜਦ ਸਿੱਖਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਵੀ ਆਪਣੇ ਗੁਰੂ ਘਰ ਬਚਾਉਣ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਖੜਾ ਹੋਣਾ ਪਏਗਾ। ਉਸ ਦੇ ਲਈ ਅੱਜ ਤੋਂ ਹੀ ਜ਼ਹਿਨੀ ਤੌਰ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਸਾਡੀ ਤਿਆਰੀ ਕੀ ਹੋਣੀ ਚਾਹੀਦੀ ਹੈ, ਇਸ ਬਾਰੇ ਵੀ ਥੋੜੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਗੱਲ ਕਰ ਸਕੀਏ।
Absolutely, I agree with you. And we saw after the attacks in 9/11 in America, so many Sikh people were attacked, Gurdwara were attacked. We as the Sikh community should be expecting this, sadly, and that's why it's even more important that we heed the advice, that we do have security at our Gurdwara. We have Sevadar that are able to do that and able to come and protect our Gurdwara, but also are educating our older Sangat as well. Sangat that may not understand the news in English or may not understand what's going on, and help them take the precautions that they need to as well. As I said, it's so important that we come together as a community, especially at this really scary time.
बिल्कुल। what course of action should South Asian communities should take right now to protecting themselves, to protect their businesses, and as well as religious places like Gurdwara, Mandir or Masjid?
Take practical steps. Definitely don't get involved in any of the violence, because ultimately you're no better than the other side, and that could lead to arrests for you, that could lead to prosecution, and it could lead to jail time. We obviously don't want that. But protect yourselves and your businesses and your homes and your place of worship in a pragmatic way. If you know that a riot or violence may be coming to your town or where you live, do what you can to protect yourselves. Don't go out. Make sure you're checking in on your other relatives, your friends. Make sure you're letting them know as well what might be coming. I was just speaking to my mum, who was born here, but she said she remembers the riots on Soho Road, and she said that's when up in Ibam they started to put shutters in on their shops. So again, pragmatic solutions like that. If you need those kind of reinforcements for your home, your businesses, don't be afraid to look into it. I'm pretty sure that this is happening now, but who's to say it may not happen again?
ਡੈਫੀਨੇਟਲੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਵੀ ਇਹੀ ਉਮੀਦ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਕਿ ਇਹ तमाम ਘਟਨਾਵਾਂ ਮੁੜ ਤੋਂ ਕਦੇ ਨਾ ਵਾਪਰਨ। ਇਹੋ ਜਿਹਾ ਦਰਦ, ਇਹੋ ਜਿਹੀ ਪੀੜ ਕਿਸੇ ਨੂੰ ਮੁੜ ਤੋਂ ਨਾ ਵੇਖਣੀ ਪਵੇ। ਅਸੀਂ ਵੇਖਿਆ ਤਸਵੀਰਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਦੀਆਂ ਦੁਕਾਨਾਂ ਲੁੱਟੀਆਂ ਗਈਆਂ, ਲੋਕਾਂ ਦੀਆਂ ਗੱਡੀਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਅੱਗ ਲਗਾ ਦਿੱਤੀਆਂ ਗਈਆਂ, ਘਰਾਂ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਵੀ ਹਮਲੇ ਹੋਏ। ਇਹ तमाम ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਕਿ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਫਾਈਨੈਂਸ਼ੀਅਲੀ ਵੀ ਥੋੜਾ ਹਰਟ ਕਰਦੀਆਂ ਨੇ, ਬਲਕਿ ਮਾਨਸਿਕ ਤੌਰ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਮੈਂਟਲੀ ਇਟ ਕੁਡ give a effect which can be with us for a long term। ਉਹਦੇ ਤੋਂ ਵੀ ਬਾਹਰ ਉਭਰਨਾ ਬੇहद ਔਖਾ ਹੋ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਹੈ, ਜਿਵੇਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਆਪਣੀ ਮਦਰ ਦਾ ਰੈਫਰੈਂਸ ਦਿੱਤਾ ਇੱਥੇ।
I think racism has a cost for everybody, whichever side of the situation you're in, whether you are in receipt of racist hate or violence, or you're a bystander, for example. Um, for me, this is very painful to see because I've only ever heard stories of riots like this and violence from my bibi, my grandparents, and my parents. But now, when you witness it firsthand, it's like I'm almost reliving what they may have gone through, and that's so painful. It's one thing hearing it, but then it's another thing going through it and witnessing yourself firsthand. Obviously, we're all fine, nothing's happened to her. I'm not saying we've been attacked or anything, but the fact that it could happen, it's coming to my town. I'm speaking today from Birmingham. There was a hotel full of migrants in Tamworth, that's only a few miles away from our home,
Ji.
that was set on fire. Like, that is massively scary and worrying. And I especially against the backdrop of it doesn't feel like there's enough police. We know that the police are massive and other emergency services are very much underfunded. So it is worrying. And I know communities are coming out to protect themselves and one another, and we do need an element of that. But I just want to urge everybody not to take it to a level that it doesn't need to get to. We don't need to be going out looking for people to attack. We shouldn't be doing that. We need to do things in a peaceful way as possible, because we will be no better than them, and then they will use that footage and say, oh look, is this the community that you want in your country? We always have to think like how they're thinking as well.
Definitely. At this point, we need to understand the point of view of those refugees who were in those hotels. They see all the situation of that point, and they came into Britain with an idea or with the request that they are not safe in their own country, and they put their applications over here. And now, if even then they are not feel safe here, where should they go? On humanitarian grounds, they were asking the same questions. What an answer can we give to them?
We have to understand that people have come to this country for lots of different reasons, right? My grandparents came as economic migrants to rebuild the country after the Second World War. But people are also coming to this country because Britain and other countries around the world are bombing their countries, and they're in wars in their countries. Not every country, but it's happened to a lot.
Yeah.
And they're coming to a place of safety, whether they've come legally or illegally. By the way, there was no legal way to come here as a refugee for a very long time under the Tory government. We should make note of that. So when people are coming here, just think of what they've had to go through to get here, the kind of journeys that they've had, and only 0.18% of the population are refugees, not even 1%. And what's happened is the previous government, they have state-sponsored Islamophobia, hate and division, and they've used that as a tool, as distraction in our society to make us hate one another and to cause division. So we don't question too much what they're doing in government. That's what I personally believe. And refugees and migrants, if they are eligible for any support, it's only £37.50 a week. I'm very happy for my taxes to go to that. Taxes that I pay personally, taxes that I pay through my business. I'm very happy for that, because I'd rather them not be in a war-torn country. That we all know £37.50 is not going to get us very far in this day and age. The cost of living crisis has gone up. But they are not the ones that are costing our country. Migrants and refugees aren't the reason our country is the way it is. And when we look at this from a global perspective, the UK takes a very, very small number of migrants and refugees. It's actually much poorer countries that take in a much higher population of migrants and refugees. So I also urge people to do their own research as well, because what we might be forwarded on WhatsApp or what we might be told by another person, that might not be correct. It might not be factually correct.
ਡੈਫੀਨੇਟਲੀ ਜਦ ਵੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਅਜਿਹੇ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਦੀ ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ तमाम ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਘੇਰੇ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਲਿਆਉਣ ਦੀ ਕੋਸ਼ਿਸ਼ ਕੀਤੀ ਗਈ ਹੈ, ਅਸੀਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਦਰਸ਼ਕਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਦੱਸਣਾ ਚਾਹਾਂਗੇ ਯੂਕੇ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਵੱਖ-ਵੱਖ ਥਾਵਾਂ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਹੋਈਆਂ ਘਟਨਾਵਾਂ ਬਾਬਤ ਅਸੀਂ ਇਸ ਵੇਲੇ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਡਾਕਟਰ ਸ਼ਾਨੀ ਟੰਡਾ ਹੋਣਾ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂ। ਸਾਡੀ ਪੁਰਜ਼ੋਰ ਕੋਸ਼ਿਸ਼ ਹੈ ਇੱਥੋਂ ਦੀ ਜਨਰੇਸ਼ਨ ਜੋ ਨੌਜਵਾਨ ਨੇ, ਦੂਸਰੀ ਤੀਸਰੀ ਜਨਰੇਸ਼ਨ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਹੈਗੀ ਹੈ, ਉਹ ਇਸ ਵੇਲੇ ਕੀ ਚੀਜ਼ ਮਹਿਸੂਸ ਕਰਦੇ ਨੇ ਇਹਨਾਂ तमाम ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਵੇਖ ਕੇ। ਇੱਕ ਤਰੀਕੇ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਜੋ ਪੂਰਾ ਰਾਈਟ ਵਿੰਗ ਦੇ ਨਾਮ ਦੇ ਅਧੀਨ ਇਹ ਸਾਰੀਆਂ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਕੀਤੀਆਂ ਜਾ ਰਹੀਆਂ ਨੇ, ਉਹ ਕੀ ਇੰਪੈਕਟ ਰੱਖਦਾ ਹੈ। ਅਸੀਂ ਇੱਥੇ ਮਿਸਟੇਕਨ ਆਈਡੈਂਟੀਟੀ ਦੀ ਵੀ ਗੱਲ ਕੀਤੀ ਹੈ ਤੇ ਗੱਲ ਮਨੁੱਖੀ ਅਧਿਕਾਰਾਂ ਦੀ ਵੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਇੱਥੇ ਜ਼ਰੂਰ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਦੇ ਅਖੀਰ ਤੋਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ। ਮਿਸਟੇਕਨ ਆਈਡੈਂਟੀਟੀ ਬਾਰੇ ਸ਼ਾਨੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਗੱਲ ਕੀਤੀ ਸੀ। ਮਿਸਟੇਕਨ ਆਈਡੈਂਟੀਟੀ ਦੀ ਜਦ ਗੱਲ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਹੈ ਤਦ ਇਹ ਜ਼ਰੂਰੀ ਬਣ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਜੇ ਮੈਂ ਸਿੱਖ ਹਾਂ ਤੇ ਮੇਰੀ ਪੋਲੀਟੀਕਲੀ ਰਿਪਰੈਜ਼ੈਂਟੇਸ਼ਨ ਥੋੜੀ ਬਹੁਤ ਹੋਵੇ ਜਿਸ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਸਿੱਖਾਂ ਦੇ ਬਾਬਤ ਵੀ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਰਹੇ, ਸਿੱਖਾਂ ਦੀ ਪਹਿਚਾਣ ਬਾਬਤ ਵੀ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਰਹੇ। ਉਸੇ ਤਰਜ਼ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਸਾਡੇ ਮੁਸਲਮਾਨ ਭੈਣ ਭਰਾਵਾਂ ਦੇ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਵੀ ਪੋਲੀਟੀਕਲੀ ਰਿਪਰੈਜ਼ੈਂਟੇਸ਼ਨ ਕਾਫੀ ਚੰਗੀ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ। ਫਿਊਚਰ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਅਜਿਹੇ ਕੌਨਫਲਿਕਟ ਨਾ ਪੈਦਾ ਹੋਣ, ਉਸ ਬਾਬਤ ਕਿਸ ਤਰੀਕੇ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਕਾਰਜ ਕੀਤਾ ਜਾ ਸਕਦਾ, ਕੰਮ ਕੀਤਾ ਜਾ ਸਕਦਾ ਹੈ ਤਾਂ ਕਿ ਇਸ ਰੇਸਿਜ਼ਮ ਨੂੰ ਰੋਕਿਆ ਜਾ ਸਕੇ। ਜਾਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਸਮਝ ਲਈਏ ਕਿ ਇਹ ਰੇਸਿਜ਼ਮ ਕਦੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਰੁਕੇਗਾ, ਹਰ ਇੱਕ 10 ਸਾਲਾਂ ਬਾਅਦ 25 ਸਾਲਾਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਕਿਸੇ ਨਾ ਕਿਸੇ ਰੂਪ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਸਾਡੇ ਸਾਹਮਣੇ ਇਹ ਰੇਸਿਜ਼ਮ ਆਉਂਦਾ ਰਹੇਗਾ। ਇਹਦੇ ਤੇ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਕੀ ਕਹਿਣਾ?
I don't think we will ever live in a world where we don't experience racism. I don't think we're going to eradicate racism in our lifetime. You know, we have racism in our own Sikh community as well. So we have to understand and own that. Racism is in every country, every community, every culture. It's everywhere. There's not one part of society where racism doesn't exist. But that's why it is really important, and we should learn what it means to be actively anti-racist, because not being racist isn't enough. So we have to understand these racist structures that we live in. We have to understand the kind of behaviours and language that upholds racism as well. If I can give a small example, when we comment on each other's skin tone or skin colour, that is born out of racism. So when we talk about people's skin tone, people think if you have a lighter skin tone, you're more accepted, you're more desirable in society. That comes out of racism. In our community, in our Sikh Punjabi community, comments about people's skin colour are made very openly. That's actually very racist. So first and foremost, we need to educate ourselves and racism and how we should stop contributing towards it. And then secondly, we have to care about politics. I'm not saying you need to be an expert, but politics dictates every single part of your life. It dictates your money, your interest rate. It dictates, you know, the cost of everything. It dictates who is going to be in charge in your local area as well as your local country. It dictates every part of your life. We have to understand that. And the more that you're not involved, or the less that you understand about the situation, the more disenfranchised you will be. So it's your responsibility to care about politics. Yes, I know it's not always fun. I know sometimes it can be boring, but there are ways in which you can make it simple. I follow an account on social media called Simple Politics. So they break down really hard to understand things. It is in English. Maybe someone can create one in Punjabi. Wouldn't that be amazing? Yep. So I think it's really important that we find ways to educate ourselves, and then how collectively we educate our community to do it as well. But
definitely,
my final word on this is we will always live in a racist world. We all have a responsibility to stop contributing towards that.
ਬਿਲਕੁਲ ਅਖੀਰ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਅਸੀਂ ਪੋਲਿਟਿਕਸ ਦੀ ਇੱਥੇ ਗੱਲ ਕੀਤੀ ਹੈ। ਪੋਲਿਟਿਕਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਇਹ तमाम ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਵਾਪਰਦੀਆਂ ਵੀ ਨੇ। ਹਾਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਬਿਲੀਵ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਕਿ ਹਾਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਸਿੱਖ ਉਮੀਦਵਾਰਾਂ ਤੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਸਿੱਖਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਜਾ ਕੇ ਕਹਾਂਗੇ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਵੋਟਾਂ ਦੇ ਦਿਓ। ਇਹ ਵੀ ਰੇਸਿਜ਼ਮ ਤੋਂ ਘੱਟ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਅਸੀਂ ਗੋਰਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਬਾਅਦ 'ਚ ਕਹਾਂਗੇ ਜਾਂ ਕਹਿ ਲਈਏ ਬੰਗਲਾਦੇਸ਼ੀਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਬਾਅਦ 'ਚ ਕਹਾਂਗੇ। ਅਸੀਂ ਇੱਥੇ ਗੱਲ ਜ਼ਰੂਰ ਅਖੀਰ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਰਨੀ ਚਾਹਾਂਗੇ। ਗੌਰਮੈਂਟ ਦਾ ਜੋ ਰੋਲ ਸੀਗਾ, ਗੌਰਮੈਂਟ ਜਿਸ ਤਰੀਕੇ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਇਨੈਕਟ ਕਰ ਰਹੀ ਸੀ ਤੇ ਪੁਲਿਸ ਜਿਸ ਤਰੀਕੇ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਇਹਨਾਂ तमाम ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਰਿਸਪੌਂਸ ਕਰ ਰਹੀ ਸੀ, ਹਾਊ ਡੂ ਯੂ ਫਾਈਂਡ ਦੈਟ ਇਟ ਵਾਜ਼ ਓਕੇ, ਔਰ ਥੋੜਾ ਹੋਰ ਹਰਕਤ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਆਉਣਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਸੀ? ਨਵੀਂ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਨੂੰ ਆਪਣੀ ਬਣੀ ਜ਼ਿੰਮੇਵਾਰੀ ਇੱਕ ਕਦਮ ਅੱਗੇ ਹੋ ਕੇ ਨਿਭਾਉਣੀ ਚਾਹੀਦੀ ਸੀ।
Yeah, I think the government have been slow to respond, and they haven't called it out. Well, they initially didn't call it out as Islamophobic. They did initially call it out as racist. And if the government isn't recognizing what it is, then how are we as citizens going to hold each other to account, or how is we as citizens supposed to frame it if our government isn't doing that well enough as well? So I think it's important that we do hold the government to account on this, and they call it out for what it is. And just touching again on the politics, it's really important that we have Sikh representation, and it's such an amazing feeling that we have, a lot, more than we've previously had, I believe, MPs and representation in Parliament. But we should also be questioning, we should be looking at these MPs and how they vote and what they vote on, and are they in the interests of the Sikh community or not? We shouldn't just vote for them or support them just because they're Sikh or just because they have Kaur or Singh in their name. We should be questioning, well, actually, are you supporting me? Because I remember when Rishi Sunak was hailed as the UK's first ever South Asian Prime Minister, it didn't make any difference to my life. In fact, I'm more embarrassed that someone from the South Asian community contributed to Britain being the way that it is. So while some people, I think, just were celebrating the fact, I think we need to question, and we need to look more at people's behaviours. We need to look at their actions and actually what they are choosing to do with that power.
Ji. In the end, I would like to request you, please put on your last comments to our viewers, to our Sangat, to stay safe, to stay alert, and to be not involved in this violence at all, even not to protect someone. Just stay alert for you, for your family, and for your businesses, please.
Yeah, please look out for one another, especially the elder members of your family, or your family who may not be able to understand what's going on in English. Take the time out to explain to them and how they can keep themselves safe. And please do not get involved in any unnecessary violence. Even if you are going out, you are going to encounter protest, don't take it to a silly level. Just be safe and keep those around you safe. Ultimately, whether you like it or not, you will be representing the whole Sikh community. That's what it will be badged as. So if this was somebody else, what would you want them to do?
ਬਿਲਕੁਲ ਧੰਨਵਾਦ ਕਰਨਾ ਚਾਹਾਂਗੇ ਡਾਕਟਰ ਸ਼ਾਨੀ ਟੰਡਾ ਜੀ, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਆਪਣਾ ਸਮਾਂ ਦਿੱਤਾ, ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕੀਤੀ ਸਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ। ਅਸੀਂ ਕੋਸ਼ਿਸ਼ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ ਆਉਣ ਵਾਲੇ ਦਿਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਦ ਹਾਲਾਤ ਸੁਖਾਲੇ ਹੋ ਜਾਣਗੇ, ਹਾਲਾਤ ਠੀਕ ਹੋ ਜਾਣਗੇ, ਤਦ ਵੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਜ਼ਰੂਰ ਕਰੀਏ। ਦਰਸ਼ਕਾਂ ਤੋਂ ਵੀ ਇਜਾਜ਼ਤ ਲਾਂਗੇ। ਤੇ ਜਿਸ ਤਰੀਕੇ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਡਾਕਟਰ ਸ਼ਾਨੀ ਜੀ ਨੇ ਇੱਥੇ ਗੱਲ ਕਹੀ ਕਿ ਜੇਕਰ ਸਿੱਖਾਂ ਨੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਅੰਦਰ ਹੀ ਹਲੇ ਰੇਸਿਜ਼ਮ ਇੱਕ ਤਰੀਕੇ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਕਿਤੇ ਨਾ ਕਿਤੇ ਦਿਲ ਦੇ ਇੱਕ ਕੋਨੇ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਭਾਵੇਂ 1% ਵੀ ਬਚਾ ਕੇ ਰੱਖਿਆ ਹੋਇਆ, ਤੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਧਰਮ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਵੀ ਰੇਸਿਜ਼ਮ ਰੱਖਿਆ ਹੋਇਆ, ਤੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਪਹਿਲੇ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਖਤਮ ਕਰੀਏ, ਤਦ ਹੀ ਅੱਜ ਅਸੀਂ ਗੱਲ ਅੱਜ ਦੇ ਹੋ ਰਹੇ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਹਾਲਾਤਾਂ ਨੂੰ, ਅੱਜ ਦੇ ਹੋ ਰਹੇ ਇਸ ਰੇਸਿਜ਼ਮ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਖੁੱਲ੍ਹ ਕੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਗੱਲ ਕਰ ਸਕਾਂਗੇ ਤੇ ਇਸ ਦੀ ਮੁਖਾਲਫਤ ਕਰ ਸਕਾਂਗੇ। ਧੰਨਵਾਦ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ ਸਾਡੇ ਦਰਸ਼ਕਾਂ ਦਾ, ਧੰਨਵਾਦ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ ਡਾਕਟਰ ਸ਼ਾਨੀ ਟੰਡਾ ਹੋਣਾ ਦਾ। ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ, ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ।